We're now joined by spiritual leader Gauranga Das of ISKCON. Let me begin by asking you, sir, first of all, thank you for speaking to us here at Times Now. Let me begin by asking you, with less than a week left for the Pran Pratishtha, how does it feel to be part of such a moment that has been so long coming?
Thank you very much, Madhavji. Great question. 1510, the Ram temple was already being worshipped, and even Guru Nanak Dev was visiting that place. And then 1528, Babur created the masjid, and then in 1949, Ram Lala deities appeared, and in 1976-77, the Archaeological Survey of India came up with the idea that yes, through their excavations they found that there are pillars of this Ram temple. And then subsequently, Jan 1st of 1993, the Supreme Court gave a historic decision that Ram is a constitutional entity and Ram Lala should be worshipped. So it has been a very, very long period of awaiting, and I think all the devotees of Lord Ram and all the followers of this tradition across the India and different parts of the world are awaiting this most wonderful experience. And therefore, for more than 10 million devotees of ISKCON globally, it's also a great opportunity for rejoicing, because Lord Ram literally means Ramante Yogino Anante Satyananda Chidatmani Iti Rama Pade Naso Param Brahma Vidiyate. Ram literally means one who is an ocean of pleasure, and therefore the soul seeks pleasure in a relationship with the Supreme. And today, with India having 70,000 hospitals and more than 2 million temples, the idea of a temple is actually so that we can get treated within our mind, and therefore temple is called Mandir, a hospital for the man or the mind. And so it's very important that with the increase in mental health challenges which is happening globally and is also in India, when there is a focus on installation of Lord Ram's deity in this beautiful brand new temple for which the entire country has been waiting for and worked for under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and the VHP, I think it's a very, very important occasion, moment, not just because it's a temple being opened, but it's because of the public participation where millions of people are emotionally surcharged and engaged. And as a result, a huge spiritual transformation and awakening is already happening, especially amongst the youth. And I think it's a very, very important element.
How do you think the construction of the Ram temple at Ayodhya will impact upon the spiritual landscape of India and also the culture of our country?
Absolutely. The whole idea of culture means the right kind of environment and ambience in which transformation can happen. Like, for example, you know, a boxer needs a specific diet and a dress, and that adds as his culture by which his core ability to fight enhances and improves. So similarly, when we speak about spiritual culture, we are speaking about the right kind of association, the right kind of books, the right kind of contemplative practices, the right kind of diets and music and arts, and all of them being promoted. So in Sanatan Dharma tradition, the temples were the epicenter for spreading of the culture. Here we find that all through tradition, kings were responsible for creation of the temples and maintaining of the temples. Now we have Prime Minister Modi, along with his leadership and the VHP coming forward, and across India, corporates have contributed significantly, large family offices have contributed significantly to the creation of this temple. And as a result, the entire India is totally invested to see how this temple can become a focus point for engagement, for spiritual engagement and transformation. Just like I gave the example of the hospital. In a hospital, when we get treated, there is a medicine. So mantra is typically what is known as a medicine for the mind. It's a sound-based medicine. And therefore, when this temple is open and the chants of Jai Sri Ram and various bhajans and narrations around Ramayana start, all of this add to the spiritual fervor, and these are having medicinal values for the mind by which people who are experiencing anxiety and stress can get transformed. And therefore, I think you have asked a brilliant question, that India's spiritual heritage and tradition has always been very powerful, And you're quite aware that practically all of India is filled with spiritual holy places, but still spiritual tourism has not picked up as much as it should have, because a country like Northern Ireland with only 1 million population gets almost 5 million tourists per annum, whereas India with a population of 1.4 billion pre-COVID would get only 11 million foreign tourist arrivals. So therefore, I also see that with the revival of this Rama temple and installation of the Ram temple, Ram deities in this new temple at Ayodhya, there will be a huge boost in awareness about spiritual tourism in India, and people are going to come from all over the world considering India to be the spiritual capital of the world and would like to learn and transform themselves, because ultimately the word education comes from the Latin word educare, which means to bring out that which is latent within. And so the original nature of the soul to serve, to please, and to be in harmony will be definitely unleashed. And I think when there is harmony of the self with the divine, there is harmony with nature, and there is harmony with community. So I see this Ram temple being opened under the blessings and the fantastic vision of the VHP and Prime Minister Modi to be an excellent fulcrum point for spirituality, sustainability, and social impact.
It's very interesting that we're talking about the Pran Pratishtha having an impact globally, because we're looking at a month after this Pran Pratishtha ceremony taking place, that even the BAPS temple in Abu Dhabi, that is in fact also going to be consecrated. The importance of such big events and Hinduism as well as Sanatan Dharma having the impact globally is also something that many are talking about. How do you see this?
Thank you very much for this beautiful question. I think the Pran Pratishtha ceremony as a spiritualist is being looked forward by myself personally as a global governing body commissioner of ISKCON, and also more than 10 million devotees of ISKCON globally with over 800 temples worldwide, as a very historic occasion, very historic moment. And why is that so? Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON all over the world in places where there were no temples as such. In America, we rented churches, we rented various places, because the most important part was spreading the message. And we distributed 55 crore Bhagavad Gitas all over the world, because the world needs to transform. And therefore, we managed to get public participation from people from across the world. And so you will find ISKCON temples in more than 120 countries. Now, what I find significant is Prime Minister Modi has been a very significant catalyst in generating public participation, and especially participation of the youth in various initiatives which he has unleashed from this government. And especially he has rekindled a spiritual reawakening, first by the renovation of the beautiful Kashi Vishwanath temple at Varanasi, and the way he was personally participating in the Pran Pratishtha ceremony by being engaged in all the ceremonies in great detail, unabashedly, without having any kind of hesitation, is a great example that yes, we are willing to live by our faith and our tradition in public. And therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yad yad acharati sreshthas tat tat eve tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. Whatever great souls set an example, common men follow. And therefore Prime Minister Modi's leadership has been a very major source of inspiration for reawakening spirituality amongst the youth, and they feel totally connected to the Sanatan Dharma tradition. And I personally am experiencing, running so many ISKCON temples, that the number of youth visiting our temples in the last couple of years has grown almost 10x.
But as a monk and a spiritual leader, let me ask you, how significant is the Pran Pratishtha ceremony that is taking place in Ayodhya?
So Hindu Sanatan Dharma has always been a very major force. And today the world has a population of almost 8 billion, and the Christian population is 31%, Muslim population is 23%, atheist, skeptic 16%, Hindu population is around 15%. So it's a very major force, almost a billion people. And therefore, right now, what the world is facing is tremendous amount of anxiety and stress. And, you know, to tell you the truth, the Gita identifies the root cause of stress. And stress is caused by the anxiety of change. Change is the major cause of stress and fear. When something changes, it changes the identity with respect to our body, the identity with respect to our husband or wife, identity with respect to our kids, identity with respect to our house, identity with respect to our profession, our profile, our career, identity with respect to social acceptance, rejection, identity with respect to our net worth. Any changes which happen all through the day from morning till night, it attacks our identity. It threatens to change our identity. And any threat to change our identity becomes the cause of fear and anxiety. And therefore, all traditions speak about beginning the day with some contemplative practices which act as immunity boosters, which protect us from the virus of change. And that is typically known as prayer or prarthana or meditation or contemplation. So across traditions, whether it is Islam or Christianity, Judaism, Sikhism, Jainism, Hinduism, there have been practices recommended. Because these practices have not been explained to the young generation in a logical manner, many times people think these are just some superstitious rituals. But no. If mental health challenge, stress, anxiety, depression, distress, these are real challenges the world is facing, with almost 370 people committing suicide in India every single day. We have 18 million people dying out of cardiovascular diseases, 77 million people in India, you know, having diabetes, becoming a diabetes capital of the world, almost 10 million people having cancer, and 5 million people across the world having obesity-related deaths. We are living in a society where lifestyle disorders are major. And although we have technology we can control, but people seem to have lost control over their own body, mind, and senses. So I think it's extremely important for us to enable people to regain control over their lives. And I think with the opening of this beautiful Ram temple, the entire fervor towards how we can begin the day with prayer to Lord Ram, prayer to Lord Krishna, prayer to our worshipable deities. And that prayer typically indicates that I am a soul connected to the super soul, Lord Sri Ram, and I have an eternal relationship between the soul and Lord Ram, and all I can do is engage in eternal service. And no power of prosperity or adversity can take away the power to serve. And therefore Ram's younger brother Laxman, the word Laxman literally means Lakshmano Lakshmi Sampanno Bahir Prana Ivappara Sarvapriyakarastasya Ramasyapi Sharirata. Valmiki Ramayana says Lakshman means one who is endowed with Lakshmi or prosperity or wealth. So now the question arises, Lakshman was in forest. What kind of wealth are we talking about? Lakshman literally represents one who had the wealth of the opportunity to serve. So therefore I think with the opening of this temple, people will realize that we should change our narrative of our prosperity and wealth and know that any opportunity we get to serve selflessly will be a fantastic opportunity for us to transform ourselves, to protect ourselves from the various impacts of change which will inevitably happen all through the day.
So several political leaders have raised questions about how an incomplete temple is being consecrated. Shankaracharyas have also raised questions regarding this. What is your view on these complaints that have been coming in the run-up to the Pran Pratishtha ceremony?
For the devotees worldwide who have been waiting for hundreds of years for this event to happen, definitely all of us are extremely excited. When it comes to installation of deities within the temple, there are various aspects to it. If the main Garbhagriha and that area is perfectly ready, because most important is two things: the safety and security of the deities, second, access and ease of worship for the Sevites. If these are actually in place, then some of the other things are an ongoing exercise. And personally, as I described, ISKCON itself has installed deities in various parts of the world, where we did not have the luxury of installing deities within a properly, designed, Vastu compliant temples and all, but we installed the deities and we started the worship with the understanding that yes, people when they get connected, they will get benefited from this. As long as these two things are done, the deities are safe and secure and the access to worship is proper. Yes, as far as this particular incident is concerned, I am aware of the various criticisms which are happening, but anything you do in today's context, it is such a polarized world that it is very difficult to get all opinions aligned. And as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, what impresses me most about him is he has the conviction and the character to put his weight behind something what he believes would be for the benefit of the masses. And I can see that a spiritual rejuvenation for India is very much important at this stage, and especially for the youth. And if you look at the social media, you will see how the youth is totally behind this entire event. Billions of people are looking forward to this event, and if that can transform people's lives for the better, I think there can be nothing better than this. Today we are living in a world where 1 billion people across the world are addicted to cigarettes. 5 liters per capita is the alcohol consumption. 275 million people are dying across the world due to drug addictions and things like this. We are living in a world where 7 million people are dying prematurely because of air pollution. The pollution of the heart is extremely concerning and worrying. In such a scenario, I would say that when a temple is built in a way where the deities are protected, the deities are safe, and access to worship is there, I think it's a fantastic idea.
So there's also the ongoing case of the Krishna Janmabhoomi with the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Janmabhoomi taking place. Do you think that this has raised hopes for you as well?
After Kashi Vishwanath temple and the Ayodhya temple, all the devotees of Krishna and especially the devotees of ISKCON are very much looking forward to the fantastic, beautiful Krishna Janmabhoomi temple, because as you may have read about it, when Krishna ended his pastimes, Krishna appeared for two things: Premarasa Niryasa Kurite Aswadan, Raga Marga Loke Bhakti Kurite Pracharan, to taste love of the Brajavasis and to teach love. So when he was ending his pastimes, Krishna told his great grandson Vajranab to establish Mathura as a holy place, commemorating all of his pastimes, and Vajranab did that. And so he made the three deities of Govindadev, Gopinath and Madan Mohan Ji. And then in around 1000 AD, in that period when Mahmud Ghazni attacked, then all of these deities were taken away and hidden, and for 500 years after that, hardly there was any activity. And so Lord Chaitanya appeared in 1515 in Vrindavan, and then that process of rejuvenation of Vrindavan began. So yes, our tradition, we are very deeply connected with the restoration of temples in Vrindavan, and I personally am looking forward very much and assure full support to whoever is looking for this kind of a support, not only from myself but from ISKCON as an organization. We are more than happy to support any kind of initiative which is based on justice, which is based on harmony, which is based on bringing history closer to what it should be.
Gauranga Das, spiritual preacher and director at Govardhan Eco Village, I'd like to thank you so much for speaking to us here at Times Now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jai Sri Ram.